At 4:17 a.m., every monitor in the operations vault went black at once, like the building blinked. Then one screen returned with a single line of white text. Hello, Riley Hart. Authorization required. That was not a glitch. That was a heartbeat monitor going flat. People think an airline lives in shiny ads and polite gate smiles. No. A midsize airline lives in a windowless room under fluorescent lights that hum like they resent you. Ours sat near the cargo ramps outside Newark, behind a door labeled storage to keep executives from wandering in and asking what a transponder is. For 11 years, I ran dispatch for Skylark Regional. My title was Director of Network Operations, which means I prevented metal tubes full of strangers from arguing with weather, gravity, and each other. I knew which airports failed first when storms rolled in. I knew which crews were reliable, which crews were charming disasters, and which gate agents could move a plane with nothing but a radio voice and a threat. Our brain was Root Nest. Root Nest was old software with the personality of a feral cat. It worked because I learned exactly where to scratch it so it would purr. When it threatened to bite, I fed it the right codes and it behaved. Bert, my shift supervisor, lumbered in with his breakfast sandwich and a face that said the universe had already insulted him. Storm line off the Carolinas, he said. Boston is stacking departures. Chicago is rolling a ground delay. Fuel manifest queue is blinking again. Root Nest blinked every Tuesday. I typed the fix I had typed for years, a small custom tool that rerouted the handshake through payroll data when the roster server got lazy. Green lights returned. Flights moved. People never knew their vacations had been rescued by a woman drinking coffee that tasted like burnt paper. Then the vault door opened at 9:03 a.m. First came the scent, expensive citrus and confidence. Then came Evan Calder, newly minted Chief Strategy Lead, a title invented so the owner family could hand him a toy steering wheel. Evan had perfect hair and a smile that tried to be friendly but landed like a sales pitch. On his arm was Sienna Vale, former influencer, current corporate muse. She held a tablet like it was a holy book and looked at my monitors like they were a museum exhibit. Riley, Evan said, loud enough for the whole room. We are here to see the magic. My father says we have to modernize. Sienna nodded with theatrical sympathy. We are doing an upgrade journey. Less hoarded knowledge, more brand alignment. Observe all you want, I said. Do not touch anything. This room is a live artery. Evan chuckled and reached toward my screen. I planted my palm on the desk between us. If you click the wrong panel, you can strand a plane in Detroit without a fuel release. Then you can explain to 300 people why they are breathing recycled regret for 4 hours. His smile tightened. For a moment I saw the spoiled child behind the suit. Noon, boardroom, Evan said. We are discussing the future. They left, perfume lingering like a threat. Bert leaned closer. That felt like an incoming collision, he muttered. Yeah, I said. And I already know who they plan to blame. The boardroom at Skylark Regional had glass walls that overlooked the hangar, so executives could discuss efficiency while mechanics bled knuckles under wing lights. Evan Calder sat at the head of the table. Sienna Vale sat beside him, tablet in hand, smile preloaded. The founder, Graham Calder, was absent. When the old owner stayed away, it meant the children were driving. Evan opened with practiced warmth. We are doing a reset. Operations is too dependent on tribal knowledge. Sienna dimmed the lights. Her first slide read, Aurora Reset in neon colors. We want proactive tools, she said. Predictive dashboards, less negativity. Weather forecasting exists, I said. We already use it. A manager laughed once, then choked it down when Evan glared. Sienna clicked to a map of Chicago. Why so many flights to Milwaukee? The algorithm says consolidate with larger aircraft and reduce frequency. We use smaller jets because the secondary runway cannot handle heavier aircraft, I said. Consolidate and we pay higher fees at the primary field. Also, commuters pay for frequency. Cut it and they leave. Silence. Sienna blinked like I had thrown a wrench at her. Evan cleared his throat. That is legacy thinking, Riley. We will modernize. We will launch Skypulse. It will automate dispatch so anyone can run ops. No more gatekeepers. Gatekeepers, I repeated. You mean professionals. Then the reset began. They cut the night help desk because nobody flies at 3 a.m., except our cargo routes that paid the bills. They fired Len, the maintenance scheduler, and replaced him with a bot that ordered lavatory parts and forgot brake assemblies. They hired a consulting firm that had never watched a thunderstorm swallow Atlanta. Sienna started shadowing me, which meant she sat near my station and asked questions that could ground aircraft. Why so many codes? She asked. Cannot we just color flights? Pink for on time, red for late. A red box does not tell me if I need a mechanic or a priest, I said, still typing. She sighed. Your energy is intense. It affects culture. Culture was a room full of professionals whispering about layoffs. By week 2, I stopped fighting. I nodded in meetings. I praised bold plans. I let them believe I was adapting. That calm was not surrender. It was construction. Root Nest survived on thousands of tiny scripts I wrote over the years. Not official updates. Personal workflow tools that kept the ancient core talking to the modern layer. I did not delete them. I centralized them into one encrypted directory tied to my active credentials. If I was employed, they ran. If I was not employed, access would be revoked. That was not sabotage. That was security. I printed a dusty compliance memo from 2014 about personal productivity code. The wording was vague, which is a gift. I signed it and filed it with onboarding paperwork, right where nobody reads. Friday at 2:40 p.m., an invite appeared. HR and strategy. No agenda. They thought they were firing an outdated operator. I was about to let them learn what outdated means when you remove it. HR smelled like sanitizer and fear. Evan sat behind the desk like he was judging a talent show. Sienna sat beside him wearing sympathy like costume jewelry. Linda from HR hovered in the corner, eyes begging for an earthquake. Have a seat, Evan said, gesturing to a low chair. I stayed standing. I prefer to stand. Evan forced a smile. We reviewed your fit for the new direction. You are not aligning with agile protocols. Sienna leaned forward. We need fresh energy. You are attached to old methods. Old methods, I said. Like knowing which runway can handle which aircraft. Evan snapped. You are terminated effective immediately for insubordination and failure to adapt. Linda slid a folder toward me. 2-week severance and an NDA. I placed my badge on the desk. Keep the severance. I will not sign your NDA. You have to sign, Evan said, confused. No, I said. And you are going to need a consultant soon. Evan laughed. We have Skypulse. You have a dashboard that displays data, I said. I run the data. Sienna lifted her chin. Hand over your passwords. They are documented for transition, I said. I reached the door and paused. Root Nest refreshes the crew cache at 3:30 p.m. The bridge rebuild needs an active authorization. If it does not find one, it gets confused. Evan waved me off. Get out. In the lobby, sunlight hit my face like freedom and bad timing. I opened the admin app on my phone, still tied to my live session. Status: connected. A warning flashed. Logging out will terminate active session scripts. I pressed confirm. Status: disconnected. There was a bar near the airport called Runway Tap. It smelled like fryer oil and second chances. I ordered tequila and set my phone upright beside the napkins. At 3:29 p.m., the public flight tracker looked normal. At 3:31 p.m., one flight slipped to delayed, then 3, then a dozen. The delay list grew like a bruise. A text from Bert hit my screen. Gate assignments are locking. 2 arrivals are being sent to the same gate. Root Nest, without my workflow tools, reverted to factory defaults. It forgot terminal expansions, it forgot construction closures, it forgot the living adjustments that kept theory glued to pavement. When a system forgets, it becomes dangerous, and the FAA does not negotiate with danger. By 5:02 p.m., the FAA issued a ground stop. Planes already airborne diverted. Planes on the ground froze. Every minute cost more than my old salary. My phone rang. Evan. I declined. Then Sienna. You need to be the bigger person. People are suffering. I replied with one sentence. Try your proactive dashboard. Then I blocked her. At 6:11 p.m., the founder finally called. Graham called her. Riley, he said. Come back tonight. Name your number. We are bleeding. This is not about a number, I said. You let them call me outdated. You let them treat operations like content. Please, he said, voice cracking. Goodbye, Graham, I said, and ended the call. The bar was noisy, but inside me it was quiet. For the first time in 11 years, the planes were not my problem. Saturday morning, I slept until my body stopped vibrating. Then I made real coffee, not the powdered sorrow from the vault. My phone had 30 missed calls and enough voicemails to qualify as an audiobook. Evan offered money. Sienna offered guilt. Legal offered threats dressed as polite language. I ignored them and read headlines instead. Skylark Regional grounded after system failure. Passengers stranded as FAA issues ground stop. The public thought it was hackers. It was not. It was arrogance with a calendar invite. Bert texted me. Graham is here, screaming. Evan looks like he swallowed a battery. I opened a folder at home and smiled at the emergency envelope I had planted weeks earlier in the vault, taped under my keyboard tray. In emergency. Open this instead of panicking. Inside were 3 things: a system architecture map, the location of my encrypted script directory, and a copy of the 2014 compliance memo with the key paragraph highlighted. The last page was a note in plain language. If you terminate the employee tied to these workflow tools, the tools are purged for security. Liability rests with the administrator who authorized termination. Not revenge, documentation. The difference is the paper trail. At noon, television showed a press conference outside Skylark headquarters. Evan stood at a podium in a suit that looked slept in. He tried to smile like a leader, and ended up looking like a man bargaining with gravity. We are working around the clock, he said. We are implementing modern solutions. A reporter shouted, Is it true this began after the dismissal of the operations director? Evan stuttered. That is an internal personnel matter. Another reporter asked, Why is Summit Air reporting improved on-time performance today, while Skylark is at 0? Evan froze. He looked off camera, toward where Graham would be standing, and the silence answered for him. My laptop chimed with a new message. Kenji Park, Vice President Operations, Summit Air. Riley, we know Root Nest did not break on its own. If you are available, I want to talk about a consulting contract with authority. No committees, no influencers. I met Kenji for lunch. He slid a contract across the table. The number was triple my old salary, with remote work and a clause that gave me veto power over reckless changes. One condition, I said. If I say a system needs repairs, it gets repairs. No vibe campaigns. Kenji nodded. Done. I signed. On my way home, Bert called. They opened your envelope, he said. Graham threw a chair. Security walked Evan out of the vault. Sienna vanished. People say she fled to a wellness retreat. A wellness retreat, I repeated. Of course. Bert hesitated. Are you coming back? No, I said. I am moving forward. When I hung up, I felt something settle into place. Not guilt, not triumph. Alignment. They wanted a future without the outdated operator. So I gave them exactly that. By evening, rumors spread that investors were pushing for an internal review and a leadership freeze. Evan could not spin a ground stop into a brand moment. In aviation, consequences do not care about charisma. My revenge was simple. I let reality speak in delays and red ink. 3 months after the meltdown, the vault at Skylark Regional was still the same beige bunker, but the power dynamics were not. The board forced Graham Calder to hire an outside compliance team. The compliance team did what compliance teams do best. They followed the paper trail instead of the perfume trail. The conclusions were not dramatic. They were clinical. Evan authorized a termination without a dependency review. Sienna pushed changes without operational sign-off. Skypulse was not ready. Root Nest was never the villain. The villain was the belief that a dashboard can replace a brain. Evan was removed from strategy and reassigned to something harmless, like ceremonial meetings. 2 weeks later, he resigned, publicly citing personal growth. Private sources said Graham removed his access badge and told him to grow somewhere else. Sienna reappeared online with a soft focus video and a caption about healing from corporate toxicity. She launched a podcast about leadership energy. Episode 1 included an ad for a magnesium drink mix. I listened to 10 minutes and felt my blood pressure rise, so I turned it off and chose peace. Skylark Regional survived, technically. They contracted a vendor to rebuild missing workflows, and they paid for it the way people pay for roof repairs after ignoring the leak for years, with panic and regret. They also lost routes. Summit Air absorbed passengers. Other carriers circled like seagulls over a dropped French fry. Within a quarter, Skylark announced a merger. The press called it strategic. The mechanics called it what it was, a rescue. I was sitting at my kitchen table in sweatpants, logged into Summit Air Systems, with a mug of good coffee and a calm pulse. Kenji kept his promise. When I said a server needed hardening, it got hardened. When I said a roster module needed redundancy, it got redundancy. Nobody asked if it was on brand. They asked how fast it could be done. I also did something I did not expect. I reached back to the Vault team. Bert, Len, and a few others had been collateral damage in someone else's decision. I sent Kenji a list of names. He hired half of them within a month. Competence travels in packs. One afternoon, a flight climbed over my neighborhood, a Summit Air jet lifting clean into clear sky. I watched it like a parent watching a kid ride a bike without wobbling. I did not miss the constant emergency adrenaline. I missed only the people who deserved better than vanity leadership. My phone buzzed with one last message from an unknown number. "Riley," it said. "This is Evan. Can we talk? I want to apologize." I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. Apologies do not reroute aircraft. Accountability does. That is the part nobody wants to admit about corporate revenge. It is not explosions. It is not shouting. It is procedures and signatures, and the calm refusal to be used as a safety net for people who keep cutting ropes. They called me outdated. Now my work runs on time, and their excuses are permanently delayed.